Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, President Biden cuts off imports of Russian oil and gas, but critics say he's not supporting American energy production. As the refugee crisis grows in Ukraine, we're going to see how Israel is working Christian organizations to get Jews out of Ukraine. Plus, some say stimulus checks may have sparked an uptick in drug use during the pandemic. We'll explore.
Well, that big chunk of money was gone within days. Sitting at home, being bored, having nothing else to do, already being an addict.
Then later, he's Major, and he's known as the Hope Dealer. He sits down to talk to us about his tour and his inspirational life story.
It woke me up to the call, and that's literally to lean in with this commitment to give people hope.
All these stories and more are coming up next from the CBN Newsroom.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We want to begin with Russian troops closing in on several key cities in the devastating war against Ukraine. Here at home, President Biden moving to cut off Russian oil and gas imports. But he's facing pushback for claiming he is not hindering U.S. energy production. Our Charlene Aaron is on this story.
President Biden shut down Russian oil imports to the U.S. in an effort to ratchet up the pressure on Vladimir Putin. But the move comes at a hefty price for Americans, as already high gas prices are expected to soar even higher. The president is hoping Americans will view the ban as necessary to stop Russian President Putin's war on Ukraine.
That means Russian oil will no longer be acceptable at U.S. ports, and the American people will deal another powerful blow to Putin's war machine.
A new poll shows more than 70% of Americans support the Russian oil ban, including 2/3 of Republicans.
Gas prices have absolutely exploded in the last week.
Republicans are calling on the president to increase domestic oil production.
Actually, we do it most environmentally safely than anywhere in the world. And we create American jobs and make our economy stronger. So why don't we do it here? Until I hear that, until I see actions that support that, I'll have a bit of skepticism about their commitment to lowering gas prices.
The Biden administration facing bipartisan backlash for reaching out to nations like Venezuela for oil. On CBN's Faith Nation, Victoria Coates, distinguished fellow at the American Foreign Policy Council, weighed in on the issue.
I'd very much like to hear out of the White House is that they are fully supportive of American domestic production. That would have the most calming effect on markets.
Tuesday, the Pentagon rejected Poland's offer to transfer MiG-29 fighter jets to a U.S. base in Germany so they could be passed on to Ukraine. The U.S. calling the plan untenable and likely to further inflame tensions between the Russians and NATO. Coates said it reflects Eastern Europe's deep concern over Putin's ambitions.
I think what you're seeing, Jenna, is a number of countries that suffered grievously both during World War II and during the Cold War know what's afoot here. They know they've taken the measure of Vladimir Putin and what he's willing to do in Ukraine.
Meanwhile, Russia's attacks on civilians continue, with several major cities under fire. The U.S. warns food and supplies in the capital city of Kyiv may run out within 2 weeks. Hundreds of thousands of people are fleeing the onslaught.
It's really hard, especially when we've left again everything. Some bags, children, no husbands, no help, and no future.
CBN's Operation Blessing is on the Poland-Ukraine border, bringing relief, distributing supplies such as portable solar-powered chargers for mobile phones and hygiene kits for the refugee families. The UN says more than 2 million Ukrainians have crossed the border into neighboring countries, and the numbers keep growing every day. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Humanity is slowly moving through Ukraine in a desperate attempt to flee the war. North of Kyiv, as many as 100,000 people may be trapped without water or electricity as Russian forces bombard the city. More than 2 million people have already escaped, most of them women and children. CBN's George Thomas takes us to the border of Poland and Ukraine, where the greatest refugee crisis since World War II is unfolding now.
Our destination this morning, the town of Rawaruska, just west of Lviv. The drive normally takes about 30 minutes, but nothing around here is normal. It's taking 4 to 5 hours now to reach this border town that straddles Ukraine and Poland because of this. Hundreds of cars, bumper to bumper, filled with women, children, and the elderly fleeing the conflict here. Because we are press, we get through the line fairly quickly, thanks to a Ukrainian military escort. A quarter of a mile from the border, we meet Irina Hadash, standing with so many others in the bitter cold, waiting to cross.
The last 3 days have been the most horrible days of my life.
Irina is here with her 2 children after escaping bombings just south of Kyiv. 10-year-old Mila is worried about her best friends back home.
They're not answering my text messages. The last few days, I have had many terrible emotions. I'm just praying they are okay, but right now I'm controlling my emotions.
Standing a few feet away, Anna Mikitenko and her 3 children. They were in an underground bunker in Kyiv for a week when she started to notice worrying signs.
They kept asking me, Mama, when will this all end? Mama, how long will this go on for? Mama, why is this happening?
Anna's daughter, Nastya, also 10, really misses her father.
Men who are between 18 and 16 years old cannot leave the country. They have to fight.
Alexander Stepaniuk, standing at the last Ukrainian border checkpoint, was overcome by emotion as he watched his wife, 2-year-old and 9-year-old walk across Poland.
This is terrible that in the 21st century something like this is happening. How can one man cause so much grief in a big European country? We did nothing to deserve this.
The UN says more than 1 million people so far have escaped from the central and eastern parts of Ukraine. Over 800,000 of them have walked right here through these gates. This is the Ukrainian border, and on the other side is Poland. And the future for them remains uncertain. Those unable to walk to the Polish border boarded buses, while tearful husbands watched and blew last kisses to loved ones.
I really don't want to leave my house, my city, and my country. I hope that everything will end and we will return home soon.
With her children by her side, Irina Hadash and a dozen others took their last few steps on Ukrainian soil and walked into an unknown future.
I have feelings of despair and fear, but I know I have to fight it to stay strong for my children.
George Thomas, CBN News on the Ukraine-Poland border.
Israel is working with Christian organizations to help Jews trying to escape Russia's invasion of Ukraine. CBN News Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us that story now from Jerusalem.
Israel is scrambling here and in Europe to pave the way for thousands of Ukrainian Jews to immigrate to Israel.
We are in touch with different communities and leaders of these communities, rabbis. We helping them to organize buses to the border, and then in the border we meet these buses and we help them to cross this border to accommodate them in these neighboring countries.
Ukrainian-born Roman Polanski, a regional director with the Jewish Agency, faces a chaotic task.
The situation in Ukraine is the men ages 18, 60, they cannot leave the country because they are drafted to the army. And it creates a situation when the family could be split and they have to make their choice. Wife with children and with elderly parents can go beyond the border, but men should stay there.
Complicating the effort is that many people didn't bring family documents and some don't have passports, although the Jewish Agency has been able to mitigate some of the challenges.
These people come sometimes with only 2 bags and with cat or dogs, and they need everything. They need clothes, they need medicine, they need food. We are trying to provide them with all our help, including, by the way, also psychological help and medicine help.
Working with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, the agency has established centers near borders in Poland, Romania, Hungary, and Moldova.
Christians all around the world who help us, different organizations, both financially, but also they have their people in the field, in Ukraine and in other countries, and we rely on this chain of support as well.
Author Tom Hess is most concerned about those not returning to Israel.
There's 200,000 Jews there. I believe that God has shown that the destiny for the Jewish people is back in Israel.
In his well-known book, Let My People Go, Hess issues a clarion call to Jews and Christians alike about the importance of Jewish people returning home.
God says the destiny of the Jewish people is back in Israel in the last days. Half the Jews in the world are already back, but he says he's going to bring them all back, not leaving any behind.
Given the rush right now to rescue those in Ukraine, much work and uncertainty lie ahead. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Coming up here at home, stimulus checks given during the COVID-19 pandemic could be a contributing factor to recent drug overdoses and relapses. We're going to hear that story when we come back. Deadly overdoses and millions of relapses. COVID stimulus checks may have contributed to a surge in drug use, especially fentanyl. The source of the fentanyl flooding into the United States is China. Some say this constitutes an act of war because it's destroying America from within. Chuck Holton investigates this crisis in one of the hardest hit areas, Appalachia.
2020 saw a record 92,000 drug overdoses across the United States. And while final 2021 numbers have yet to be released, the total looks to be higher still. The crisis is being driven by the ultra-potent drug fentanyl.
Fentanyl is the most powerful painkiller that's on the market today, and it has a very, very hard effect on the user. It's 100 times more potent than morphine.
Only 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. In 2021, U.S. Customs and Border Protection seized more than 11,000 pounds of fentanyl in the United States, enough to kill more than 2.5 billion people. Distributors are lacing it with less potent drugs like marijuana, meth, and heroin, often without the knowledge of the user.
It's not just deaths from fentanyl. It's death, increasingly fentanyl mixed with methamphetamines and with cocaine.
We are finding in our drug screening almost every methamphetamine positive also has a fentanyl positive. Once that first high occurs, nothing after that compares.
West Virginia saw a 40% increase in the number of overdose deaths just in 2020 alone, and fentanyl played an increasing part in those 1,200 deaths. But if you talk to experts here in West Virginia, they'll tell you that it's also the U.S. government's response to the pandemic that's to blame.
Unfortunately, the stimulus monies that were distributed throughout the country as a way to address lost income attributed greatly to overdose deaths and to overdose near deaths and millions of relapses. We've seen a significant uptick in clients in the recent months.
This former addict agrees.
I got that big chunk of money. Well, that big chunk of money was gone within days. Sitting at home, being bored, having nothing else to do, already being an addict, you know, hey, let's get high.
But the costs soon became all too real.
Back in November, I lost a very, very dear friend of mine to an overdose. I think that, yeah, the pandemic had a lot to do with it, to be honest.
The source of the fentanyl flooding America's streets might come as a surprise. According to data compiled by the Drug Enforcement Administration, illicit fentanyl is primarily manufactured in China and smuggled into the United States through Mexico. Some say this should constitute an act of war.
Well, we should consider each of those deaths a murder because China wanted Americans dead. China knows exactly what's going on. So when they sell fentanyl, you have to assume that this is Communist Party policy.
These experts fear fentanyl may prove to be our adversary's most powerful weapon, defeating America from the inside out.
Every time someone says fentanyl, we should be saying China. Unfortunately, that's not the case.
If our enemies can destroy our youth who fight our wars, then they've already won the battle.
From Southern West Virginia, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Still ahead, Major is known as the hope dealer, and he wants to spread it. Find out how when we come back. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. I recently sat down with actor and recording artist Major. That's capital M-A-J-O-R, period. He's traveling the country sharing the Major Hope experience. He's actually nicknamed the Hope Dealer for a number of reasons, and his life has been special from the very start. As he shared in our conversation, his mom considered abortion in the unplanned pregnancy, but got a flat tire on her way to the abortion clinic not once, but twice. In the end, she gave birth to him, named him Major, and trusted God to use him in a major way.
Contrary to popular belief, hope isn't pretending your current struggle ain't real. It's actually a brave champion mindset and posture to take in the midst of it all.
So I know we can't see it because it's covered up by your jacket right now, but you have labeled yourself the Hope Dealer.
Listen, listen, it's hope right there. Hope is not the denial of reality. It's a commitment to believe greater is on the other side of it.
You are touring the Hope Experience?
The Major Hope Experience. Keep hope alive in beautiful people. And it's spoken as Major Hope because I want people to understand that this concept is not just some fluffy cliche. It's to be understood that Major Hope would be synonymous with the unapologetic embrace of it. Hope. It's a powerful thing.
What prompted it? What sparked it in your heart that this is something you had to do? I know it's a passion project.
I've been about this work all of my life. My mom tells me why she named me Major, and that came with the story of perseverance for herself because she was, pregnant with a kid out of wedlock and considered abortion, but divine intervention, stepped in and on her way twice to the abortion clinic, she had severe car trouble. So she was like, God, I hear you. I'm gonna move forward with having this child. And if I name him Major, I pray that he makes a major impact on the world.
That heaviness is evidence that love was something pretty special.
It woke me up to the call. And that's literally to lean in with this commitment to give people hope, to inspire them in every situation.
What if I told you hope was the key? Would you believe me?
There's a line that you have that hope is not just the key, it's the major key.
It's the major key. It's the major key.
Because hope is not only the key, it's the major key.
Were you at a point hopeless?
Oh, yeah. Before people knew of me for, this is why I love you. I was told so many no's, still experience no's and so many opinions. Hope is what got me through that.
And I've learned to love me too.
I know what my heart was saying. I know what the voice of God was saying to me. That if you simply lean into what I gave you, I will make the way. I'll prepare the way.
God spoke to you and said that if you sing about me,
the rest of the world
will join.
Oh, you've been doing some research. All right, brother. All right, brother.
This is why I love you. Ooh, this is why I love you.
I was writing the love song, and I was trying to figure out ways to be clever, and Harmony was like, I said, Harmony, words are coming, but they don't feel real. And I said, I know heartbreak. I don't know a consistent love that has shown me what I'm wanting to sing about. And he says, you've never experienced this? I said, God? He says, so write to God. And I said, that's it. And as I prayed, I remember hearing, write about me, and the rest of the world will sing along.
Love will do.
You talk of facing rejection. Too funny rejection. They're not funny now. They're funny looking back, considering where you were, but I know they're not funny.
It's exhausting.
Funny going through. But both American Idol and The Voice.
Yeah. Oh, you really have done research. Absolutely. Unbelievable. Because they said I was great, but no thanks. Simon said I was too polished for the show. I'm like, this is strange. This is weird. This is discouraging. Because you just kind of build your hope on the things that you think are what it is. And that's when I realized that my hope has to be anchored in something that's more constant than the things that I'm aiming towards. And that's why my hope is in my faith center, God.
I love you, 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 I do.
If you know in your knowing that this is what you've been made for, lean into it in excellence. Stay consistent, and the door will open.
I found love in you, and no other love will do.
Stay consistent. The door will open. For more uplifting news and music, you'll be sure to check out this evening's Studio 5. We're sitting down this week with singer and songwriter Linda Randall. She's sharing her pilgrim journey. You can watch Studio 5 on the CBN News Channel at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time this evening, or by downloading the CBN News app and watching it on demand. Stay tuned. Your Wednesday Word is coming up next. Time now for your Wednesday Word, and today's word has simply got to be hope. In the words of Major, hope is not the denial of reality. It is the commitment to believe that greater is on the other side. Remember that. Commit to the greater on the other side of your reality. With that word, I encourage you to make today a wonderful Wednesday. That will do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel at any time or online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today, or any day you can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. And reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye. God bless.